Impact Mortgage presents.
Is my mic covering one of my chins or not? I hope so.
Scott, can you give us a little Dr. Dre rap or something just to get us a good test?
No, I can't. He knows I can't.
What? I know Beebe can.
No boats, no snowmobiles, and no skis.
Welcome back to episode 10 of the CatchMark SportsNet Podcast.
Really
I'm your host,
10?
Zach Swagel. Episode 10, we're in double digits today. Today, joined here by colleague Scott DeVamp, who's no longer in Cabo.
He's still got his tan, though. At
Yeah,
least it's
his
real
glow's
now.
still
He's come back. He's
hangover.
glowing.
And Brent Rath, our leader. And special guest today, Whitehall Athletic Director, Brian Beebe. Welcome, Brian.
Hello. Thank you.
Yes, absolutely. And we're not going to forget Billy Mann, our producer over here in the corner, the guy that makes it happen.
Christmas?
I had a great Christmas. It was weird, but it was great.
I'm not sure you got enough dolphin stuff for Christmas,
No.
everybody.
Yeah,
Did you get any dolphin stuff?
Your giant Dolphins man onesie?
Your man onesie with a tie, built-in tie.
I had a man onesie. I got an ugly Christmas sweater. I got a one of those igloo ice chests. Those are cool.
Nice. Like a Dolphins one.
Yeah.
So you're going to bring lunch to work?
I can bring lunch to work in it.
In your little igloo?
Yeah, no, it was great. It was just weird because I was rooting for the Buffalo Bills. And like getting excited and like when Josh Allen was scoring and it was weird. I was like, why am I doing this? Oh yeah, because since they beat the Patriots, the Dolphins have a 99% chance of making the playoffs if they win out.
So are you in a streaming household or do you have cable or what do you have?
All of the above.
You look like you confused him with that question.
The reason I asked this is because
Billy was like,
what if storms came through and took it out and you couldn't watch the Dolphins tonight? What would you do?
No, I have. We have DirecTV satellite with the Sunday ticket, and this has happened before. A storm's come through and the satellite goes kaput, so I bring it up streaming on the DirecTV app through Apple TV, and then if that goes out, I have it on my phone.
So,
don't worry.
Christmas Eve, midnight-ish Christmas Eve, we just finished, like, stuffing the stockings for the kids and everything. All the power goes out in Montague.
Really?
Yep. Everything.
I didn't
Everything
know
goes
that.
down. Yeah, the whole, like, everything. So I get up, I got a generator. I guarantee that if I turn the generator on, the power will come back on quickly, right? So I jump out of bed, run outside, fill the generator up, kick it on. We got power again. I'm like, all right, good. Because I got to cook breakfast in the morning. I can't be without power, right? Mm-hmm. So I look in the garage. I have no gas, right? The kids have used gas and never gone and refilled it. So I'm like, all right, I better go over and get some gas and gas cans just in case this lasts a little longer. Drive to Whitehall because Whitehall's lit up. Montague's not. Fill the gas cans, and as I'm coming over the bridge, all the power comes back on. So I get home. Again, now it's about 1 o'clock in the morning. I get home. I go outside. I shut all the generators off, turn the breaker back on, the whole 9 yards, right? Like, I lay down into bed, and what do you think happens? Power goes off again. I'm like, are you friggin' kidding me?
Yeah.
So then I get up again. I go back outside. I kick the generator back. I was like, so Christmas morning, needless to say, I was like a zombie. I was so tired. Yeah, I was just laying there. Like, the kids are like, what's the matter with you? I'm like,
Saying I had a long night.
I haven't slept last, I got to sleep about 3 o'clock. So
That's
it
horrible.
was crazy. Christmas Eve. I've never had that happen before. Like, you'd think maybe once in your life, but that was the first time. I was like, then I felt bad for all the linemen out there. I'm upset
no
because
kidding.
the power's not on. I'm like, these guys are on Christmas Eve, Christmas Day, like crawling something. But yeah, so.
What'd you do, Brian?
Spent time with the in-laws.
Don't act so excited.
Had a wild week. It was a pretty laid-back Christmas. I actually didn't open a gift, which was the wife and I said that we weren't going to do any shopping. We told the in-laws that. So it was interesting not opening a gift. It was just different. It was cool to see like the little nieces open gifts and stuff, but it was different. It was my first adult Christmas, I guess. I didn't like it. I told my wife that we were going to open gifts next year like 9-year-olds again.
Yeah,
It was
go backwards.
the last time that was going to happen.
Yeah, I'm not comfortable with it either, really, with opening them. I mean, opposite to what you say.
Mm-hmm.
You don't like
it's
opening
weird.
gifts?
I like seeing everyone else do it. I don't like doing it myself.
What is
Just
wrong
don't-
with you?
I just don't.
You are a vampire.
It's not what it's about, right?
That's true, but it's still fun.
Yeah, it's still fun. I guess I get it from the perspective of you get the whole family together. You know, people
Yeah.
you don't talk to or know super well. That's a little weird. Like, oh, like thanks, great Aunt Martha for this rock collection book or whatever. You know what I mean? Like something. I get that, but when it's like your immediate family or your spouse or whatever, I don't.
I have a problem with what feels like forced gift giving too.
Well, that's
that's what-
I'm there.
That's what I mean.
My,
That's kinda what I
that
mean.
I'm there. My favorite part of Christmas is the bad Santa, Yankee swap, get dirty with it kind of Christmas. That's the fun Christmas.
I got some awards to show you after.
You might want to change mine.
No, yours is perfect.
You don't like getting gifts from your kids. I don't know why I just thought of that.
Yeah, that's different. That's a little more special. I think I'm referring more to maybe extended family,
That's what I mean. Yeah.
like kind of to your point.
for sure.
So Kara Hornswoggled me this year. I always get her a Christmas present, and she's always like she doesn't usually get me anything. And she's always like, so of
You're
course
hard to shop for,
this
too,
year
by the
I
way.
don't get her anything. I got like 3 presents under
Yeah.
the tree. I'm like, man, like seriously. I bought a box of chocolates at Walmart or Wesco and put it up in the tree.
I was gonna say, how did you rectify that?
That's how I did it. But she loved it. That was her Christmas present to catch me slipping, I think is what it was. But
Catch you off
yeah.
guard.
What's your favorite Christmas movie? This will say a lot about you.
I mean, it's obviously Die Hard. That's the only answer. That's the only answer.
Yeah.
That's the manly answer.
That's the
Is
only
it?
answer.
That is-
I would say that's the manly answer.
So is Die Hard yours too?
Nope.
What is it?
God, Christmas Story probably.
Oh,
Come
man. Christmas Story is
on.
legendary.
I know.
That's so
That's their-
lame.
it's
It is.
not
It's so.
lame.
It's. I know where you're coming from, but it's got to be.
I have a,
Fragile.
on my first
It's a major award. That's a great movie.
Christmas Story is good. On my first initial podcast in this building, I have what's the movie that the Bob Cratchit, what movie is what
Christmas Carol.
Yeah.
I've never, the first time I watched that movie was 2 days ago. I've never seen a second of that
Really?
movie. That is the most depressing thing I've ever spent. Why do people watch that movie?
A lot
Why
of-
do you
a lot
want to
of
be sad over
movies
Christmas?
are.
It's a happy ending, Brian.
It's an hour and 50 minutes.
He comes to
Of
terms with his
Dearth and darkness and sadness.
Just
That
watch
movie.
Scrooged.
yes, that's what Scrooge is a good one.
Scrooge.
Scrooged.
I'm
with
surprised
Bill
nobody.
Murray.
Surprised nobody
You've
said
never
Elf
seen
yet.
that.
Elf, yeah, I
Elf's
like
good.
Elf.
Elf's
Elf's top
good.
3. Yes.
Home Alone's my favorite.
Home Alone.
Yeah.
that makes
I like
sense.
Home Alone.
That makes sense. I can't believe none
They're
of you
great
said
movies.
National Lampoon's Christmas Vacation.
That's
Yeah,
a great
that's-
one. That's a
That
great one.
is that is the first one I watch. And then, or, you know, like we'll sit down. That's the first one.
That's a,
Yeah.
Batman Returns.
Oh, Billy.
not a Christmas movie, Billy.
It's set in Christmas. It's just as much
Oh
a
my
Christmas movie as
gosh.
Die Hard.
No. Die Hard's
If you-
pure Christmas.
If you haven't seen Scrooge, you need to watch it.
Yeah, I don't think I have.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good.
Scope it out.
Best present. Scott doesn't like presents, so
Yeah,
we'll
we'll
start.
skip
and,
over him.
and Brian didn't give any, so we got Bah Humbug. That's true. What was your best present, Billy?
My best present is still on a boat. I found out what it was, but it's
It's still on a boat.
it just didn't get delivered in time. It's an elite on-field Dolphins jersey with my name on the back.
How many Dolphins jerseys would you say you have, Billy?
Probably 7.
Do you have like a whole separate section of your like closet and drawers
Yes.
for just Dolphins?
But to be fair, I've been getting the regular ones, the like regular custom ones, and the iron-on letters come off in about a year and a half. So I have like 6 jerseys where the numbers are kind of like all, but this one's sewn. Everything's sewn on. So.
I feel sorry for you that you fell in love with a team that has such an ugly logo and colors. I mean, you're just like you're like
kinda
walking 1960s with those colors. He's getting mad at me.
No, I will say it is.
I can see it. I just watched the shift in his face. It went complete seriousness. I'm just kidding, Billy.
No, I do stick out like a sore thumb wearing it.
You don't say.
And a lot of my family says they appreciate that because
know
whenever
where
we
you're at.
go anywhere, they can always say, "Oh, there he is. He's over there. Let's go."
Billy, I have an orange Brandon Marshall jersey. Okay, there's no one that can complain in Michigan because the Lions gray jersey is the worst, hands down,
bad.
no doubt. It's the worst,
Is that their pajama set?
essentially,
Yeah, when they
That's
wear
what
the
it looks
bottoms
like.
and the
Yes.
tops look the same.
with the helmet and
Yeah.
the socks. They're
The
terrible.
Dolphins have the same one. They have the aquas that are the same, and they look like they're wearing pajamas on the field.
So, is there an age that you grow out of being able to wear jerseys? I mean, obviously, it's not 38-ish. Because
Billy's going to unplug the power to this.
I'm
Get
just
pretty
saying,
good.
I mean, like back in the day, you know, there was an age where you kind of graduated out of the Golden State starter jacket. You know, like you moved into the vest. You know, so I'm just
If I could get my hands on a Miami Dolphins starter jacket, I would wear that thing all the time.
so the answer is no for Billy. That's all right.
On the topic, though, of you asked about, I know you're trying to pass over me because I'm such an Ebenezer.
Yeah. Oh,
On
you
gifts.
did get something.
Well, one of the
I
highlights.
wasn't trying to pass over
No, I
you.
know.
You passed over yourself.
I know. One of the highlights was actually going to see in a movie Christmas night. We went and saw the Kurt Warner movie. That was pretty cool.
Nice.
I heard that was really
That was good.
Yeah, I forgot to
And the reason I bring that up too is because there is a clip of there. I don't want to ruin it for you, Billy, but there's a clip of Marino in there.
Spoiler alert.
Not
Marino.
He
Just
just put it on
just
his
an
list.
action
I
clip.
watched him
Yeah,
on
he's
the
like, watch
iPad.
this.
just an action
Task
clip of him
list.
passing the ball, throwing the ball. I think so. So
Man,
don't get your hopes up that he's actually in the movie.
So, like the 7th greatest quarterback in NFL history got on the list, got in the movie. Billy hates me
I
right
think-
now.
No,
I'm sorry, Billy. It's just
I mean, most people put him lower on the list because he didn't win a ring, right? If you're judging who the greatest is by the amount of Super Bowls they've won, then yeah, I guess he's not. But he held a majority of the records for 30 years. It took Tom Brady playing 50 years to be able to take him from him.
You can't. You don't. They shouldn't be in the same
Gosh,
sentence.
you hate
dude.
Tom Brady
He
so
does.
much.
He was getting fired up before he left last week.
Was he really?
Yeah. Remember we were.
Oh yeah. Marino was good. I'm not going to tell you he's not
I don't
top
think anybody
10.
say he's
I'm just
bad.
going to say he's.
I mean, just
If he's at a gas gauge, he's at a quarter of a tank.
Who's your guy? Who's your guy?
Wait, if Marino's 7, then
No,
real quick,
that was a
so
shot
the
in the
6
dark.
must be Montana,
You
Brady.
better be careful with Joe. That's all I'm saying.
No, I'm
Brian.
saying who's the 6th then? Montana, Brady
Drew
are above
Brees.
him.
Elway's got to be in there.
Elway, that's true. Drew
I'd
Brees,
put
system
Peyton
quarterback.
Manning.
He's not
Terry
there.
I put Peyton
Bradshaw.
Manning in there.
Peyton Manning above Marino?
No, I'm not
Manning.
making
Oh, right.
this list.
Both Manning brothers,
I'm trying to fuel the fire a little bit. So
Jeff George,
Earl Morrell.
Matt Stafford, Jared Goff.
Rodgers has to be above Marino. Like, I could put Marino
I
at
don't
7 and not
know.
get mad.
Favre is up there, yeah. I don't know about Rodgers yet, though. I mean, he's awesome.
No,
He's got what, one ring? He's only won one.
It's fine. He has the worst, probably special teams in the NFL right now, and maybe a bottom 5, bottom 10 defense.
Yeah, but we're not talking about this year.
I'm not trying to defend Aaron Rodgers. I'm just saying he's really good at football.
I can tell you have a man crush.
No, I really don't.
I think Aaron Rodgers is the best this year.
what?
I don't disagree.
Yeah, I mean I think Green Bay is the team to beat.
It's funny though, because after the first game, people were ready to crucify
Sure.
that guy.
Sure.
Does that team get every single call though? It seems like it. Green Bay does.
Yeah, they do. Yes.
This whole
Okay.
first conversation, this
They
breaking
absolutely
conversation is bringing up some pent up stuff.
No, they really
I
do.
just
There's
found
no
out
doubt
Scott's a
about that.
Packers hater,
Yeah, right.
which makes sense. You're from Michigan, I can get that.
He absolutely is. No, they really do. They can't. They do, and he can still be the best. Those two things
That's
can
true.
be true at the same
They
time.
can be.
mutually
They are.
exclusive.
Yeah.
They're mutually exclusive, and they're both true.
I don't know that he's the best this
I
year,
think.
though. I think there's a lot that are close,
Who?
similar. I think Stafford's having a great year. He hasn't played great of late, but he's been playing pretty well. I would say Brady's had a good year.
Yeah.
You know?
I mean, there's definitely people that are. If he is the best, it's not by much.
Yeah. I don't know. He's had a great season. Don't get me wrong.
So how do you guys know each other? I want to talk about Brian and Scott a little bit and their high school connection. So are you guys the same age?
No,
He's about 5 years older than me.
he is significantly older than me.
We're just not going
Even
to
though-
Only our wives know the truth.
Even though our friend group always calls him the old man, I kind of hide back into the corner when they bring that up because they're like, "Man, Beebe, how old are you now?" And I'm actually older, so I kind of sneak.
So you
back.
guys weren't in high school at the same time then?
He is he graduated 1 year ahead of me at Ravenna. Scott
Okay,
did.
so you guys
Yes.
did. You guys were in the high school at the same time.
Yes.
You guys play any sports together?
Yes, I as a junior didn't play much in basketball, and Scott shot a lot of left-handed threes.
That's all I can do.
He didn't make a lot, but he shot a lot.
Unfortunately, Scott's senior year, when we were dominant in baseball, I had a walking boot on and kept the book most of that year.
Wow.
We've heard about that season many times.
I cling to it.
It was a great season to watch with a pencil in my hand, unfortunately. No, it was. I tell people this all the time. I tell kids this all the time, and everyone thinks I'm insane. My wife's heard me say this 1,000 times. I wouldn't trade my 4 years of high school for anything. I had great friends. We had great teachers. We had phenomenal coaches. We were very, very lucky to have the experiences that we had, and I think he would echo that sentiment. And that's what I've tried to do wherever I've been, is to try to give kids that same experience, because whether you're an athlete or not, those 4 years are really important years, and I think he would agree that I just wouldn't trade him.
No, I
personally.
I've got a daughter that's a senior at Whitehall. She's not sports inclined, but she's ready to be out of high school now. And I tried to warn her. She thinks college is going to be the be all end all. And I go, you got to be careful of that. I mean, you got to enjoy what's there now, but when you're that age, maybe you're always thinking of what's next, and and I don't know. But I try to kind of caution her, maybe be careful, because don't overlook what's happening now. So.
Yeah, I mean, it makes sense. I loved high school too. Did you enjoy high school?
I hated it.
Did
no,
you really?
I didn't. For me, it was great. I love being. I think it's a similar story, right? Like small town, Montague, Ravenna, Whitehall. Like they're all very similar kind of things. We had great friends. We had great teachers. Everybody knew each other. By the time I graduated, I was ready to not have everybody know me.
Yeah,
kind of thing.
for sure.
But I've said this numerous times. Like I spent a long time trying to get back here because of that. Like I think in hindsight, you look back and you're like, oh, this was really a great place to grow up. And no, I enjoyed it. I would say I'm not one that, like, my wife will make fun of me. I'm not super nostalgic for it. Like I just think it's different. It's like raising kids, right? Like there's people, I love my kids when they're little, but I'm also excited to see what happens as they get older too.
Yeah.
So for me, it's kind of the same. Like I don't think it's mutually exclusive. You can love that time, and you can also have a great time at college or wherever you go.
I will add, though, that I think even before high school, there were great memories made. Like, just for instance, going over the DeJungs and playing at Plaz World, plastic baseball. We'd go over there and play plastic baseball a lot. Just got down to the upper court, lower court, playing basketball, moving the picnic table so we could actually dunk. Yeah. Those kind of things.
Those are the kind of things that happen in a small community, though. Like you get together, and I don't know. I miss that stuff too. Yeah, it's definitely some of my fondest memories. So we got a little sidetracked.
Yeah, well, that's all right.
Post high school, where did you go? Where did you go to school?
So I attended Muskegon Community College for 2 years, met a ton of people. I tell people all the time, if Facebook goes around, I think I'd have 1 million Facebook friends, because we enjoyed our time at MCC, probably a little too much outside of the classroom. And when I got done,
in the cafeteria,
playing euchre, right? Euchre every single day.
Expert.
Man, I learned how to shuffle so well in those 2 years. It was amazing. Amazing.
Do they offer credit for that?
They
class or not?
They should have.
That's where the education was.
Actually, I had a class with Gaffner, and it was leisure games.
Yeah, I had the
serious?
same
Cribbage.
I had that class. It was great.
They taught. They taught cribbage. They taught anything you could think of. Like it was a pretty cool class.
Dude, I get that every time I shake that guy's hand, I break another finger every single time.
He's intimidating.
He's a good dude. I like Ron.
So I got outside of my 2 years at MCC, and I tell people this: I had no idea what I wanted to do with my life, and I I was very lucky that I got a job at the Chronicle. Cindy Fairfield, I distinctly remember my interview. She gave me a like 1-page description of a fictional game and said, write an article, go. And they gave me the box score, they gave me the quarter by quarter, like the play by play, and I wrote an article about a game, and it was one of the hardest things I've ever had to do. And I say this, like, I loved high school, I loved my 2 years MCC. There was really not much in my in-class experiences that prepared me for that, nearly as much as watching games, being around the game, understanding the vibe of how to write an article, not put somebody on blast as a high school kid. She said I was the only person that ever did it. I didn't mention there was a missed field goal in this fictional game, and I didn't write the kicker's name because I remembered always reading articles that they never wrote about the kid that missed the shot or missed and I didn't write the kid's name. And she goes, you were hired because of that. She goes, it was just odd that, like, I use something that outside of the classroom, and I think that we all do that in our everyday life right now. We use so much of our experiences outside of English 201 to be successful. And again, that kind of goes back to what good educators do. They try to get real world experiences and wrap it in. So I wrote for the Chronicle from 94-ish to 99 in a variety of different ways. At first, I was just the one guy in the corner that Tom Kenner had to rewrite everything, and I was terrible. And then I eventually, my last couple of years, I was in charge. That was when girls' basketball was in the fall, when it should be. Don't at me. The girls, I was in charge of girls' basketball in the fall. I was in charge of summer sports. I wrote all the leads, all the previews. It was awesome. I learned so much. It was great, and the staff was beyond deep. And I had no chance of getting a full-time job because of Tom. We just had. I'm gonna make somebody mad if I don't mention somebody that I worked with. I was lucky enough to learn from and work with. And so I went back to college, and I tell everybody the hardest thing I've ever had to do is ask my father-in-law to marry his daughter. The second hardest thing I ever did was go back to school at 25 full-time. I had to go back to school as an English major. I was an English major because I thought it was easy. I had to go back to school to learn the things I got paid to do the last 3 years. It was tough. It was humbling. It was awesome. It was great. It was everything. I was taking 19 credits, coaching basketball at Ravenna, coaching AAU basketball, doing TV for TV9 and Muskegon Community College games. I had like 5 different jobs going at the same time. I was probably pretty lucky to graduate from Grand Valley the way I did. Thank you, Brian White, my advisor at Grand Valley, for shepherding me through. I say this every time I have to. That's awesome. And I found a way to get my BA, and I was an English major, PE minor. I remember him telling me point blank, don't do English and PE, you'll never get a job. And now it's like, we can't get enough good people to teach. But 15 years ago, he told me point blank, you'll never get a PE job. Don't get that. Be English and something else that's employable. So it's kind of wild how the pendulum swung. Yeah.
You know what else he would have been really good at? And he's heard me say this 10,001 times now, probably. Broadcasting.
Yeah.
Absolutely. He would have been excellent at broadcasting.
I said a lot of good things about Grand Valley. Here's my one thing to say about Grand Valley. I went back originally with the intention of teaching broadcasting at the high school level. And I did a whole year of comm classes, and they informed me at the end of a year that it wasn't going to be a teachable major at Grand Valley.
It's so frustrating.
So I've got about a comm minor somewhere stored up in the 6-page transcript that I lug around sometimes. But yeah, that was the intention originally.
So I had a similar experience with school in that I had a job in it for a while before I finished my degree. It soured me on college a little bit. I'll be completely honest with you. I had almost the opposite experience with it. And maybe this is just the different fields, right? But like I really felt like a lot of my instructors really didn't have the real world experience that I was working in and doing. And I was a little bit like, I was excited to go back. I had the GI Bill. I was a little bit like, man, this is so it's good to hear that, you have all kinds of experiences, I guess, coming out of that. But no, that's awesome. It is tough to go back as an older student, I would say, especially after doing the job, right?
It was, the English classes were, Grand Valley's English major is legit. Like it was, and I read things and did things that I had no business. Like it was so difficult to go back and be a traditional student. But I learned about myself that I'm a visual learner. I took notes. Like I would just write things, just notebooks full of stuff because that was the way I had to learn, was writing things down. This way I got through Spanish 2. The only way I could get through Spanish 2 with my BA. But it was difficult to go back and take English 102 and learn how to write professionally. I'm like, can I just test out of this? Like, you guys, you've got to know.
Yeah.
So, but you got to jump through hoops. It's part of life. It's part of professional world. And that's something you got to do. And that's something that I elected to do. And so I was glad I had that experience.
Interesting. Yeah, for sure. I think that you hit the nail on the head when you talked about how you learned, right? I really think that's the majority of what college is learning a lot about how yourself and what motivates you and how to get through it. I don't know. It's an interesting topic, that's for sure. It's funny that Brent just brought that up because that's one of the questions down the road. Is college is it necessary? Is it something?
Man, that's a great question.
And I want the perspective of someone that works in a school district, right? Because we have this conversation all the time. Right. But some of the brightest people I know, some business owners, some extremely successful people from all different aspects, didn't go to school or chose to learn on a more practical level,
right.
I would say.
And we have friends that have been very successful, make more money than either one of us will ever think about making in a hands-on environment where they're incredibly successful, very driven. One of our good friends who runs a family-owned business told me something real smart a long time ago, said that if I quit this job tomorrow and the business goes under, I haven't built anything. And that's something that you can take into coaching, into anything. Like, you have to think about big picture stuff when you're in that world. You have to think about, what am I leaving behind? And a lot of those guys just learn things by doing, by hands-on stuff. I'm not blessed with that. I know that's not who I am. That's another thing you learn in college, is not only who you are and who you want to be, but who you're not.
Yeah.
And I worked at Pepsi for 4 years. I did the build outs. I did all those things, and it was great. It was manual labor. I really liked it, but it also made me realize I can't. There were times that hey, there's a cooler down at the Meyer on 28th, go knock it out. I look at it for 5 minutes and have to call someone. Like, it's just not who I am. And that's okay that everyone's different. Everyone has different avenues to pursue. That's where, again, that college coaching kind of comes through. I would tell kids all the time, don't just visit blank. Go out and see things as a high school senior. Make visits. Maybe you're not a college kid. Maybe you're a small college kid. Maybe you take a year off. That gap year that got talked about a lot a few years ago, pre-Rona, isn't, I don't think, the worst thing for some kids to go out and work a job and get away from your little life and think about what you want to be long term. And sometimes those answers come then as well. I don't think you necessarily have to go to college. I'm one of those people that went to college and then didn't go to college and then did go to college.
Right.
And,
I did
and
that.
learned a lot of things in between as well.
I took one of those breaks in my long, winding college career. I did it like there was a purpose behind it. I needed to refocus, so I took a full semester. It doesn't seem like much, and it's not really in the grand scheme of things, but I went out and worked some like factory type job, like sharpening saw blades. It was a saw blade company in Grand Rapids, just something that would get me out.
That's so funny.
No, but it's funny. You know, people don't know that. Many people don't, but it's like I needed something to refocus me.
Yeah. I'm going to take a bit of a different, I guess, view of this in that, for 10 or 12 years now, I've been the employer looking to hire people. And I'll be honest with you, and this might be a tech thing, college can't keep up.
Sure.
It simply can't keep up. My degree that I got 12 years ago is almost irrelevant in what I do today. The other thing I'd say is that everything you need to learn, everything that a college can teach you is already online. Mm-hmm. So I think that, when, maybe not you, Zach, but when we were kids, when you had a research paper to write, what'd you do? You went to the library. I went to Waldo Library at Western Michigan, and that's where I sat and I got books out. And the internet was very, very much in its infancy. All of that information is at your fingertips now. Mm-hmm. It's all there, and not only that, if you want to learn it, there's videos with people showing you how to do it. So when I started this job, I knew nothing about financial statements and kind of that MBA stuff. The first thing I did was jump on YouTube and Accounting 101 and walk through what a financial statement is, what is a P&L, what is a balance sheet, what are all these things that everybody's talking about that I don't know. So I'm very much lifelong learning, but I'm also I I don't know. I think college is going to evolve here as we see it through. I think coronavirus is kind of sped that up a little bit. But that's my take on it. And frankly, if a kid came and said, I want to work at CatchMark, the first thing I would say is, well, then you need to start working at CatchMark. And because I'll teach you what you need to know from the technical side. Like, we'll get you there. I don't want to have to reteach you things that you learn in a way that's not maybe the right way. And frankly, we'll hire. There's some really experienced people that we might not even look at to hire because we have to reteach them, relearn them. That's,
right.
Yeah, it's because I didn't go to. No, I'm just,
right.
But I mean, it's just a different perspective. I think I would say, like, my son Connor is going to graduate, and he's like, "What do I do?" He's been interning here. He's been going to the Career Tech Center now for 2 years. I've just told him, I'm like, I think after 4 years, if you work here for 4 years, you will be so far ahead of anybody coming out of college with an IT degree. It'll be night and day between you and them.
Yeah.
And I said, and you can always go get your degree. You can always go, and I think that's what a little bit all like, that's my path to college too, right? Like, I started, I didn't finish, I went into the service and I got out. Then I believe that really that's what it was about, and so that's a little bit of a different take on it.
For
but,
sure. Yeah, I mean, I kind of knew that you
You
had
knew
a
where
different
I was
take.
at with that.
Yeah, so that was part of the. It's just interesting to hear different people's opinions and career paths and how they get to, how they got to where they are. So back to coaching a little bit in teaching. Post Chronicle, you went back to school. Where was your first teaching job?
My first
teaching, coaching. I mean, I guess I don't know exactly.
I graduated from Grand Valley in 2002. I've got Chronicle experience. I'm willing to coach. I've got an English PE background. I got hired at a Muskegon area high school.
Interesting.
And the goal was to be, I had a schedule laid out. I was in the schedule. Girls basketball's in the fall, don't forget. So I got hired in the spring. I wanted to be in Muskegon at that point. I just thought, okay, this is the perfect spot for me. And I coached this girls basketball team throughout the fall, throughout the summer. Grinded. We got a lot better. The school board meeting before the school year started, they cut 8 teachers, and one of them bumped me out of my job. I never had signed a contract. I didn't know. I just assumed that, oh yeah, I'm going to get a contract sooner or later. So my first year graduating college, I didn't have a teaching job. I taught classes as an adjunct to MCC. I coached that team that fall. I assisted at MCC. I was still working at Pepsi. I was suddenly, I went to college to get a full-time job. In my first year of teaching, didn't have a full-time job. And crazy. So it was humbling. It wasn't great. It wasn't a great experience, but I made the most of it. Subbed a little, not a lot. Taught a lot of classes at MCC as an adjunct, like I said. Spent a great season there with John Adams, who was the head coach. Rob Recknagel is now at MCC, a good friend of mine. And then I was lucky enough, following that 1 year, I got the head women's coaching job at Glen Oaks Community College, which is in southwestern Michigan. I was the youngest women's basketball coach at any level. I was 28.
Wow.
And got that position. Lived with my assistant, lived the bachelor life. You're not getting paid much at that 2-year job, and it was a great 2 years. I wouldn't trade those 2 years for anything. We kind of rebuilt a program a little bit, had some very competitive teams. And so I still haven't taught high school. Then I coached for a couple D3 schools in Ohio, got my master's, still haven't taught high school. Fell in love and got a job offer in Michigan. In my first high school, I hadn't activated my teaching license. So all of a sudden I was interviewing, and now I was scrambling because I hadn't activated my teaching license. I passed all the tests. I had done everything. So I had to contact Grand Valley 7 years after graduating and say, hey, I need my, how do I teach English now? Like, I'd like to start this job that I thought I was going to start 7 years ago. And so it was, that was an interesting month or so of actually oh yeah, this is what you should have done 7 years ago. You should be applying your MTTC tests and da-da-da. And so that's kind of how I went, I don't want to say backwards, but kind of took one of the many avenues that I've taken in this career. So
That's wild. That's crazy.
That high school, I still have I still stay in touch with a few people from that team. I don't hold any ill will. It was just an interesting introduction to my professional career. It was a bit eye-opening. It was more than frustrating because I'd chosen that high school over some other ones just because I could instantly be a varsity girls basketball coach and
Sure.
had what looked like an ideal schedule. So,
And then you ended up here somehow.
ended up at
Through all this.
Ended up
all
at
this
Montague.
craziness.
I enjoyed my 3 years at Montague immensely. We had some great success there. We had the most girls basketball wins in 2014-15 that we had in 20 years.
Yeah.
Put a lot of time in with Dave Osborne. I love Dave. Put a lot of time in. The crew that kind of just graduated and is in the process of playing, we spent a good summer with them, with Dave on the AYBT circuit, and kind of knew we had a crew coming in. Unfortunately, even 6 years ago, teaching jobs were scarce. We couldn't get my wife a job here. She interviewed a few different places. She's only English, so that made it a little bit more difficult to fit her in. And so she wasn't able to get a job, so I went back south, had a PE job, really enjoyed my time at White Pigeon, a very small district. I assisted in the football program there, and then got an AD position at Clare. Loved my time at Clare. It was great, great town, and was lucky enough to get the Whitehall position there. And then my wife, the Friday before the school year started this year, got a teaching position at Whitehall after spending a few good years at Coopersville. So now we're in the same building. It's been a definite year of transition in a lot of ways for her and I, but it's been a great few months.
Absolutely. I think
And
everybody's happy to have
She
you
still
back.
want to go on vacation with you after all that?
Barely.
Yeah.
Okay.
Barely.
Might be a little much.
It's been for her. It's been probably more of a transition to me because really I'm doing essentially the same job as I did at Clare, obviously with a bigger budget and another building to manage and everything else. But for her, it's been very different, both from a scheduling standpoint, a kid standpoint, and everything standpoint. You know, it's been a year of transition for her, and I'm grateful that she is went along for the ride.
She's a great gal. She's a
She
great
is.
person.
She's managed me for 11 years.
Yeah.
So
That says something, right?
it says a lot.
Where's she from?
She grew up in Sturgis. We were there for we met there. We actually taught Sturgis about 1,000 in the high school. It's a pretty big high school. And so at that level, there's 2 9s, 2 10th grade teachers too. So we taught all the 10th grade English for 6 years. We would eat it at school and then we'd warm up the casserole at home. And it was difficult. It was a learning process. We both essentially got the 10th grade jobs at the same time and were given no curriculum. So we had to rewrite all the 10th grade curriculum. We built the website. We kind of figured out what we liked to teach and what we didn't like to teach. And no matter if we didn't like it or not, we were still doing it.
Yeah,
So
right.
It was interesting. It was interesting professionally. And the one thing that I learned quickly is that as an English teacher, I tried not to be the jock teacher. Like I wanted all the kids to have a good experience, going back to that 4-year experience. That's what I tried to do a lot. And so my wife's talked about this in principles, I almost tried to teach the kids that weren't the athletes because I didn't want to be that English teacher. I wanted to be somebody that I say this all the time in interviews, no one wakes up for commas. No one wakes up for commas. But you try to get kids an experience where they can at least take something from your room and apply it to other places in the world. So
Absolutely. Very interesting. Taking this job, moving back here, kind of a unique position, if you will. I would say much different than like a standard athletic director position. What's been the most challenging part so far, being back and taking on what you have?
You can say it. It's Jerry.
no, there's a lot. No,
Just kidding,
My
Jerry.
boss. My boss is great. We go to these league meetings, and I know that all 8 schools are same,
Yeah, pretty
but are
close.
different.
Yeah.
I haven't been told no yet. We've got a very supportive school board and athletic director, and we're very lucky in that. We're very blessed in that way. It's been unique and challenges everywhere. I'm the first guy that's ever been just the AD at the school.
Yeah.
Mr. Russell always had and I had those at Clare, where you're as focused on student achievement and tardies and
something like
everything
that,
else. Yes. And so my job, on top of everything else, has evolved that way as well, in that I call it the celebrity guest appearance. I'm making celebrity guest appearances at the middle school, at the VAC, at the high school. I'm over at Ely. Like it's unique in that way that it's certainly not their traditional job as Jay has at Montague, where he's essentially mostly locked into the high school. Right. My boy Kyle at Ravan, or any of the ADs, really, most of the ADs are really mainly high school with a bit of middle school. You know, and I know that that's unique. On top of managing the VAC and figuring out a building that's been open for 1 month and then the pandemic hit, and now we're trying to figure out what it looks like now, and we've got outside organizations wanting to come in, and what do we charge them, and what are other schools? I mean, we want this building to be used, but we don't know how to get out the word that it's there, and this is the things that we offer, and we're still outfitting it, and we're still getting the fitness center involved, and we're still that's been a unique part of it as well.
Full-time job in and of itself.
Yeah.
It has been at times it really it's a fitness center building that you're
essentially
trying to
running
manage.
a business.
Correct.
Yeah.
That you're trying, and then obviously the league's unique. You know, I'm kind of coming in near the tail end of essentially a marriage that's going plural. You're adding spouses in to this 40-year-old marriage, and there are definitely, being a child of this league, as you aren't coaching at 2 different schools in the league already, as I have, that you're really trying to make the best of what everyone brings to the table.
So give me your 2 pros and 2 cons that you see in this league merger.
The pros I'm going to take this from a Whitehall perspective. The pros from a Whitehall perspective are that we're going to be able to play our shoulder sports more. We're going to have more built-in freshman
Teams.
basketball games.
Yeah,
we're going to have more freshman football, hopefully, eventually. Yep. That we're going to have more JV sports that we don't have to go out and play.
Right.
I think another pro for Whitehall is that everything comes down to postseason now, and we're going to be helped more playing more Class B schools. We're going to be helped by playing more schools. Not that anything's bad with playing the smaller schools. I don't want that to be said, because I'm a child of them, and I think that,
either way, you got to win. I mean, that's
you have to. Yes, and I think that it will be helpful for us in the long run to see schools that we're going to see more in the postseason in all sports.
Yeah.
Cons, you're bringing in 6 people that don't know
the history.
They've never been around it. And so, and a lot of those guys are great. The ADs are great that we're bringing in and it's actually a pro. They have different perspectives that I think are helping this in terms of stuff that nobody ever sees, and how you schedule and how you maintain, how you get refs, how you do the online stuff that coaches and parents never see.
Yeah.
I think another con is that we're losing some. I think you always lose something when you gain something, and I don't.
Right, trade-offs. Yeah.
I think that we're losing something that we're never going to play. Maybe never going to play Ravan again in football.
Right.
That we're never going to play maybe some of these schools ever again in basketball or baseball, and I think that you lose something that way when you get shoehorned into some things. And another con, and this has been unique to see, that you don't think about some things. Every AD is in charge of a schedule. I'm in charge of boys soccer. Okay, so I was given the task of scheduling boys soccer. Okay, what are we doing? Well, everyone's playing each other once. Okay. Well, that looks good on paper, like the end of Christmas vacation. Some things look good on paper until you see them in real life. North Muskegon is dominant in soccer. Yeah. Whitehall's got a pretty good history. There are some schools we're inheriting that aren't as strong right now in soccer. And our stronger teams are being told, hey, you have to play these schools in soccer. There's some pushback there, and I think that's probably the case in a lot of the sports where we're saying everyone has to play each other once. Well, I don't want to play these guys because we're at the high end, and the flip is true as well. If you're at the low end, you're not necessarily looking to play to acquire North Muskegon or Ludington or some of these schools that are at the high end right now. You mean I'm walking in, I've got to play these guys? This isn't good for me to build my program. And so that's a definite negative when you think about all of the sports that have to be fed, and from a 14 school perspective of some of them don't have them, some of them have this, not that. And so it's that to get our arms around is still ongoing. And that sounds insane given the slow crawl that this has been to schedule this out, but it's still ongoing at this point.
So I'm going to put you on the hot seat a little bit here. What was wrong with the way the conference was?
I don't know if I can really speak to that, not having been around the last few years.
Yeah. You've been around.
I don't necessarily think anything's wrong, and I think there's something wrong with every league. I think the way that we schedule sports, I think every state does something better than Michigan. Wisconsin, the state schedules football in Wisconsin. You don't schedule your football. 2 years, they schedule it. Indiana, every school makes it essentially in football. I think that there's something to be learned from other places. I think that it's okay to look around and see this state does this. Why don't we do this? States with shot clocks in basketball. I'm a huge shot clock guy in basketball. I think that it just should be in yesterday.
So you're pro shot clock.
Oh my God, yesterday. It needs to be. I know it's money. It needs to happen yesterday. It has to happen. It would help immeasurably, boys and girls, sub-varsity and varsity. I think that if you're saying what's
you
that's
hooked me on shot clock.
Has to happen.
Why?
Has to.
Why?
You have to be able. If you're beginning with the end in mind, if you're beginning to prepare a kid for varsity basketball, boys or girls, there's a certain sense of urgency when you have the ball and when you don't have the ball. And there's nothing worse than a varsity game down 10 and a kid sitting there at midcourt holding the ball for 40 seconds. No one likes that, even the kid holding the ball. The coach up 10 with 40 seconds left should feel a little sheepish looking at his kid holding the ball. It's not basketball. Now you're just playing stand around and look at me. Just how it is. There's a lot of people that think that shot clocks in high school shouldn't be, and I think we're at about half the states. Every single year, there's always a survey, should shot clocks be in? And every single year, it's about half and half. It's money, though. It comes down to money.
Are you a Dean Smith admirer because you're wearing the powder blue, the stall?
No, I'm not. I mean, I was a member of a very legendary stall game against Whitehall.
Yes. Separate stories.
But I would also say that, some interesting stuff that we've gotten on the topic of, as my kids moved up and started playing varsity basketball, I've always been pretty shocked at how little scoring happens now. And there was a game last year, kind of got me going on this, where the score at the end of the game was like 29-35. Our slowdown game, where we purposefully slowed the game down, was 29-36. Does a shot clock help with that? There's going to be more possessions per team.
In theory.
I don't know. I'm a little indifferent on it. I guess I don't know. That's what I'm not. I'm definitely not in the where it's got to be done where Brian's at, but I'm definitely not also anti shot clock. I just wonder, again, I always have to think what are we fixing, and if it's possession based basketball, there's just still not very many games that I see where teams that are down 10 don't make comebacks. I've watched leads disappear still in high school basketball.
Well, high school is more volatile because the shooting is not as good and the ball handling is not as good.
5 second, 2, and you
Correct.
You
that
gotta.
rule's a big part of high school
you
basketball.
You gotta move
That's
the
true.
ball. You can't stand and hold the basketball. You actually, it was a boring game, but one of the most difficult things I ever did on a basketball team was be patient with that and not. It's not easy, and I've coached teams trying to get them into a last 40, 50 seconds of a game to end the game, and there's always 4 or 5 turnovers. It seems like, right? So, no, I don't know. I'm kind of it's intriguing to me though. You're the first person I've talked to. It's been got to be done.
Has to. I'm not saying 24. Even I'm fine with 35, even 40, but there has to be something to reward the defense at the end of a game. And it's the only game that's played immeasurably differently at the end than any other game at the college professional level.
Soccer's very similar.
Right, but I'm saying baseball. Essentially, the rules are the same in high school and college. Essentially.
I see what you're saying.
Softball. Football, there's a play clock at the high school level. It's not every school has it in the field, but there's a play clock. There's not a play clock in basketball that there is at the college and professional level, and it makes it a different game.
Why would basketball out of everything be different than?
It comes back to money.
It's not.
It's
not shot
expensive.
clocks. It's. I mean, there's the rules are different too. I mean, there are 3-point line differences.
But there's a 3-point line. It exists.
That's true.
The fouling out exists. The 7 and 10 exists.
Foul
Timeouts
counts
exist.
are different. There are differences other than just.
But
the shot
I agree. But why basketball? Like why? Because a lot of other sports are like more similar. I would say.
Football's different. How you handle overtimes is different.
That's true, and but that's changing also.
Where you kick off from, there's. I don't think to say de facto.
Right.
There's not
the basic timing of the game is essentially the same, though. Essentially, there's a play clock that you have that governs your speed, and sure you can speed up or slow down based on time and score.
Right.
But that doesn't happen in basketball. It's just I've never understood why high school in Michigan doesn't have a shot clock. I've also never understood why we only play 20 games. We play by far the fewest amount of contests compared to any other neighboring state. Not close. There's always something that comes up and says you want to play more games. The coaches always say yes. The ADs are usually split, and it never goes anywhere else.
How many games would you say then? 30?
No, I'd say 20. I like 22 in a tournament.
22
Most states
and a
also
tournament.
play an in-season tournament of some sort, whether it's in conference or
Yeah,
Christmas or holiday
I definitely
or something
don't
like
like the Christmas holiday break when
No, me
there's
either.
3 weeks of
Correct.
sometimes no basketball. But yeah.
that. Get really out of sorts then. Yeah. So going back, I'll answer
Learned
your
something about Beebe today.
I'll answer your hot seat. I'll answer your hot seat question. It's the thing that nobody mentions. Football drives a lot of things.
Well,
The high
that's
school,
where I was
college
going
level.
with it next.
And that's basically what it is. And I think that the last few years, there's probably, I don't want to say hurt feelings, but there's certainly been some fractured relationships between communities that were there for decades and decades when sizes of
They don't wanna
towns
play
and
each
schools evolve. And there's some things to be said about, okay, look, there's some schools that we're going to do it. This is their schedule. This is what we're done. We're going to eat our breakfast. It's how it is. And there's some places that, look, we don't have to do this anymore. We can do things a different way. And there's certain things to be said for both sides of that, certainly. And I can respect both sides of that. And that's probably where things have fractured from that point. And there are some shoulder sports that the bigger schools offer now that the smaller ones don't. You talk about wrestling, bowling, tennis. Whitehall has had tennis. North Michigan have had tennis for a long time, and we struggle to fill schedules. And
Both different size schools though, so size doesn't really have. I mean,
that's
maybe
true.
It doesn't. It depends on the sport.
Depends on the community.
Yeah, right.
Yeah.
And so we, bringing in those other schools
couldn't
are going to
we
help
fix
that.
though with just all the teams make the playoffs in football? I mean,
Yes.
I think football is driven.
That's
a lot
another
of
thing
this.
that should happen yesterday.
I mean,
yes.
the year,
Yes.
what COVID year was a great case study
Mm-hmm.
for why it can be done and why it's silly not to. Then you get rid of all the playoff point. I mean, maybe you don't get rid of all of it. Maybe it's a seeding thing, but nobody's dodging a team because they don't want to. You know what I mean? For example, Montague. I mean, you're gonna have a hard time sometimes scheduling games to get points with teams like size because they're a good program at that size, right? So now you got to go up. Some of the up teams don't want to play you because there's no playoff points.
Correct.
So I think that I don't know, just go to no. Everybody gets in and you fix that, right?
That also eliminates a week of the regular season where you're trying to schedule,
Right.
which we're running into that right now, where we're looking at some far-flung destinations of playing schools that
you
you look
guys
at that.
traveled a long
If
ways
you
to
look at
cover
that
this,
on a map, you think, why are they doing that? Well, that's the system's dictating to us in order for us to be successful. This is what we have to do in order to be successful.
Right.
Like Montague playing Lansing area school, Portland.
Yeah, Portland.
Portland's a monster. That's a
Yeah,
tough. Nobody there wants to
Edwardsburg.
play Portland. Nobody in Kalamazoo wants to play Edwardsburg. Nobody in Muskegon wants to play Montague. So these strange bedfellows have to meet somewhere in the middle.
But you get rid of the playoff points, and it's who cares? We get beat. It doesn't impact our.
Correct.
You know what I mean?
It also puts a little bit more importance on your conference then as well, which sounds odd. But if you're eliminating one non-conference game, then you really do have more of an emphasis if you're going that route of, okay, who's our league? How good are they? What's the schedule look like? And where are we at
Yeah,
there?
you can still play good teams, right?
Yeah.
As long
Right.
if you can just look at different levels now. You can look at somebody that's similar to your size or somebody that might be
right,
a little bit
because
smaller, but also
a like-sized team losing to a like-sized team doesn't hurt you to get into
Right.
the playoffs. Like right now, it's the whole college football argument too. I mean, the college football with 4-team playoff. I think you'd see a lot better matchups early season if you didn't get immediately eliminated from the disc. I mean, 2 losses, you're basically out of the conversation. So interesting.
I wanted to talk a little bit about, so recently I've spent more time watching coaches outside of the school that I grew up in. Obviously, because of, we've been covering different sports. And that's the other thing, is I've watched more different sports than I've ever watched. And I've noticed a ton of different coaching styles, coaching philosophies, coaching tactics, whatever you want to call it. I thought about this a couple months ago. If I was in an AD position, similar to what you're in, how do you become okay with sitting back and watching other coaches do something entirely different than you might, and how are you? Where do you draw the line? Where do you step in and say something, or where do you let people learn from their mistakes, or where do you, how do you process that stuff?
Sure. So that's a good question. No athletic director can know everyone. Like, I have sports that I feel I know really well, and I have sports that I still am adrift. And I think that part of it goes back to, I guess, the experience of the student athlete. I know that sounds really lame, but I think if the kids are genuinely having fun,
Cliche.
I think if the kids are enjoying it, and you can tell if kids are enjoying it, and if the kids want to be a part of that program, I think that you see good things happening. We have coaches at Whitehall who aren't me, and that's okay. You shouldn't have 12 of the same person in every sport. I think kids get a lot from different teachers and a lot from different coaches from those different perspectives, because different sports should be coached in different ways.
Is it the AD's job, though, to set the culture for coaching? Like, this is how we're going to act. This is how a Whitehall coach behaves?
Well, sure. I think in some ways, for sure, but I can't come in to everything my first year and just open up all the boxes, right. And different sports. Like, I think about volleyball, like Edsel has been around forever, and he is as sit back and let things ride. I mean, the assistant calls the serves, and he does the majority of his work outside of the actual contest. But I think that sport kind of dictates it. Like,
but I guess I'm not talking about even like the actual X's and O's. Mm-hmm. I think that's for a coach to decide. Mm-hmm. It'd be like me here, right? Like, I'm not going to tell Scott how to write, but I am going to tell him what. And Scott and I are on the same page with this, so it's not really like telling him. We're going to develop what we want somebody that works for CatchMark to be like. Mm-hmm. Like, what does that look like? So that's a little different. Does that make sense? Yeah. So like. How he acts when he's out, and Scott's going to perpetuate that down. Zach might write a little different than Scott, but it's going to be professional. It's going to be, this is how we're going to behave. This is what it means to be part of this. Does that make sense?
Sure. Yeah. I mean, and that's, I guess, you do that from your. I mean, actions speak louder than words, right. and we've had some contests where already in my fall and winter where we might not have been on the right side of the whistle. And as an athletic director, all you can do is provide a good role model. Be out there in public. You're the public face of it. I tell people all the time that the AD is really the head cheerleader. That's really what you are in those contests. I have no say in what's happening. I didn't hire the ref for that game. It's assigned. I didn't order up the weather that came. I didn't order. And so you're really
control
there.
What you can control.
That's exact. That's 100% right. And I think that as much as possible, you have those conversations. You try to preload those as much as possible, and you're not knee jerk when things get sideways. You assume that people were hired and are hired because they're the best in their particular sport, that they're the best at dealing with kids and dealing with situations that may arise. I can't be at every practice. I can't be at every game. I don't know why Johnny's in that role on 3rd and 2. But what you can do is at least provide that. I say all the time that you've got a shoulder to cry on, and you've got a phone to text on, or you've got an ear to listen to. And I think that as an AD, I definitely have coaches already that want to talk after the game, and I have coaches that don't want to say boo to me. And those things are both okay, but what's not okay is, Scott and I have both seen coaches that we really respect have some public moments that they wish they could take back. And as an athletic director, and as an athletic director, you hope that you can be there for those people and counsel them of that might not have been the move. Yeah. That what we're trying to get across. And I've been there as a coach that you want people to make sure that you have a good assistant or you've got a good vibe post game that you can learn from those things, not put yourself in that situation again. I hope that our Whitehall coaches, we want to put our best foot forward. We want to represent ourselves well because I can't be everywhere. But
so what does the Brian Beebe sports culture look like? I mean, if you could say, okay, this is the ideal of what Whitehall is known for from an athletics perspective, what would that look like?
I hope that we're competitive first and foremost. I was a super competitive kid. I wasn't the best kid at every sport, but I was the kid that was going to be early and late. Or, I was always early to practice, and I was always late leaving. And I want to make sure that our kids and coaches are that way, and I think by and large we have that. I want to make sure that we are maximizing our opportunities, that we're not leaving anything, whether it's huddle or the VAC or off-season workouts, that we're trying to do our best, that we're trying to get as much as possible. And what I told our players all the time is I want you guys to be the best coaches you can be in 10 years with your kids. I want to provide you playbooks. I want to provide you experiences. I want to get you as much as possible because those kids are going to be your youth coaches in 10 years. And if you've trained your trainers well enough and done the best you can, then that's only going to help you. I hope that those things are getting across in the time I've had with our coaches.
Yeah, it's been a short time.
I think that we've done that. I also think that I hope that I'm trying to support our coaches as much as possible, and I hope our varsity coaches are doing the same down the line as well to our sub-varsity coaches. The varsity coaches, I think that we have some coaches learning this right now, that your job is not X's and O's as much as it is managing and understanding the depth and breadth of what it is that you're in charge of and trying to leave something for the next coach or the next group of varsity athletes. You're not just coaching today, you're coaching long term.
That sounds awfully familiar.
It does sound
what I'm going
familiar.
through.
Yeah, it does. It does.
In my role here.
No, it definitely does.
With we're taking on maybe more of a leadership role. Still being involved in the process, but stepping back and finding ways to do things more efficiently.
Yeah, and
so that you can grow and keep it moving.
For sure. And I took on a unique role in our boys basketball program this fall that I wasn't expecting, and it was a really eye-opening experience just to see, I'd never coached middle school sports before. That was my first experience coaching a middle school team, and it was fun. It was different, and it was goes back to what we talked about earlier. I'm learning. I didn't go into that experience saying, "All right, guys, this is what I've done. We're going to." I had immediately had one practice before the first game that you watched me coach in. Yeah. And it was very unique in terms of, okay, what can we do? How can I help? Let's go. And that's really what I've done. I mean, I got hired the week before fall practices started. And that's really what I told all of our fall coaches. What do you need? How can I help? Let's go. Yeah. I'm going to try to stay out of the way as much as possible until you need my assistance.
So what's your definition of success? So when Brian Beebe decides to retire, what do you want to be known? These guys are laughing because
my success, I think, is defined in a lot of different ways.
What's
I think for our coaches, at Whitehall, I think success is making our programs as good as they can be. And there's not a win-loss. There's just not. SIG's win-loss record next year isn't the same as it is in other sports because every sport is different in a unique spot, blah, blah, blah. I think my definition of success, man, is I've never been asked this question before. That's why I'm hemming and hawing. I don't know if I think that success is defined by what you leave behind. I just think it is. What
do you want to leave behind?
He's so bad.
I want to leave behind. Brian is great at this.
I think that Greg left behind great things for me. He left behind schedules and people. Awesome. We have phenomenal people. He left behind a lot of things. He should be viewed as a success just because I came in a week before the year, plug and play, middle of a league, middle of a pandemic, new building. I give him. He has helped a ton. He helps behind the scenes a little bit, or a lot, depending on what I've needed. He's been great, and I hope that I can do the same for whomever my successor is down the road.
Leave it better than you got it.
Yeah, and he did that, And I think that with the resources, with the people, with everything, despite all the nonsense and craziness we have in our world, I hope that I can do the same thing. I think success is who you are as a person too. Like I hope that I know I'm a better husband right now than I was 11 years ago. I know that for a fact because just listening and gaining experiences and seeing what my wife has needed. And I think
We're
that
gonna get your wife in here and ask that question.
I think, I think that I think that in all of our jobs in this room, and I think nobody has just one job. Everyone takes on more than one thing. And I think you can be viewed as a success in some things and maybe not as much in others. And I think that if you own a business, if you're starting a business, you have to be as successful as possible to try to leave something behind for somebody else.
Okay.
I have to interrupt this serious line of questioning.
This is good.
For
Brian's good.
For one of his coaches pitched this idea to me when I was in Cabo. I went to Cabo. Did I tell you that?
Just had to throw out.
Still
Anyway.
working it in.
So, Sig commented on one of her many photos that we posted
I saw that.
about the idea of potentially moving the coach's corner to a different tropical
To
location each
Cabo.
week.
Yeah.
Do you sign off on that or not?
That might be my first no.
That might be your first no. That's
I think
good.
He pitched
Why?
like a bowl week experience.
Sure,
where
the whole.
I'm assuming that means the whole team comes down and you play in a tropical place. Are we going to be able to do that? Can we swing
Sure.
this or not?
I mean, we've played in. We're going to play in some interesting places. I think the next couple of years. I mean, we might as well go south instead of north. So
There you go.
There you go. Someplace warm.
No one's gonna oppose that.
right.
Take all that VAC money, you know.
People keep talking about this back money. I haven't seen it.
I know, that's why I said it. Beautiful place. So when we did our media day, there's some coaches and some athletes that had never seen it, and that's all anybody could talk about was like, holy cow, look at this place. And
In fact,
I mean-
the Ravenna girls coach, Jeff Sturkin, said one of the questions was if you won $1 million or whatever it was, won a big lottery, was $100 million. I don't remember the exact question, but what would you do with that money? And he said, I'd build a building like this.
Right.
Yeah.
And it's been unique because we're trying to get coaches who have done a certain thing. This is my calendar. This is what we do. And now you take that, and now we're asking coaches on the fly, hey, we want you to use this. But it's difficult sometimes because now it's, oh, wait, okay, now I've got to think even bigger. Now, how can I use this for fourth graders? How can I use this in June for my winter sport? And so it's definitely a mindset shift.
From a business perspective, I think you've got a big challenge there because, to be financially successful in that space, you've really got to tailor to the public in a sense. And that is going to be you're going to have these two competing sides. That's a big challenge, man. How do you get the public in there and consistent and usable, and at the same time make sure you have space for you gotta, that'll be interesting.
Sure. And our White Lake, our White Lake area community does a great job, and it has done a great job. But we're offering some things in there, like we're offering yoga and pickleball and just stuff to get people out and active in the winter from everywhere. It's great. And I think that those are ways we can get those people in as early and often during the day, during times where kids are in school, on the weekends, things like that. So
awesome.
Yeah, it's interesting.
So we talk about culture. I want to give you a platform because there's a lot of stuff going around about this whole Allendale game, and I'm not letting it go. I'm not trying to get. I want to give Brian a voice to basically. So I'm gonna just preface this with this is how it looks, and then I want you to tell me what it really is. Does that make sense?
Sure.
So from an outside looking in, it looked like we had a coach that got suspended. Coaches screw up, right? Like we've all penalized, and that coach was going to need to sit a game. The next game would have been Montague Whitehall, big game. Frankly, I want the best there. I mean, for that to be awesome. It looks like that you guys scheduled Allendale so that he didn't have to sit. He sit Allendale, and then he would be back for Whitehall. Or at Whitehall Montague. So I have had lots of people ask me about this, and I have not talked to you about this. So I wanted to give you an opportunity to clear the air. Lots of people will hear this. What's going on there?
It's really easy. But ejected, not suspended. That's
ejected.
important.
I'm sorry.
No,
thank you.
it's okay.
That is
MHSA
important.
for everyone that didn't know, it's an automatic one game. Players, coaches, no matter the sport, sub-varsity, varsity. It's real easy. We had what I thought was a 20-game schedule coming in. A local area school, a non-conference school, said, we don't have any record of this. We have 20 without your game. And so we entered the season with 19. I sent untold amounts of emails before the year, didn't fill it.
So this is something was in the works.
We've been looking for a game forever, like all season long. We've had 19, and again, going back to the earlier conversation, you want 20.
Yeah,
like that's what you want. Allendale happened to have a need for a varsity only game. Regardless of what happened in the North Muskegon game, we were going to play this game. We've been looking. For an area school, we weren't gonna drive 2 hours for one game for one basketball game, but it was great that it came through. We would have played it regardless of what happened. It's a real easy. I know perception is reality, but that's how it is. We had 19 games and we needed a game.
Did you think about not scheduling it just because of the perception that people might have?
No, I scheduled a game because we want our kids to play games. I mean, that's just how it is. Like, and it would have been the same in any sport. Like in baseball, I'm working with Coach Z to schedule games. You do that in tennis. Like McManus, it's difficult to schedule content. Like it's difficult. Going back to the football thing, it's difficult for us to. We're in a unique spot in Whitehall because we do have a lot of shoulder sports, and we have a lot of sub-varsity opportunities. We played Muskegon freshman football this year. I mean, Shores, Zeeland, we didn't duck anyone. Like we're trying to give our kids opportunities, and we need to maximize those. Okay. And it's just girls. We had 20 girls games, 19 boys games entering the year. That's why we didn't play a girls game.
So for everybody out there listening, you got your answer now.
It's real easy. That's
no need to speculate. No, you don't have to, narratives.
You can ask me that one again. You limit the success questions, but you can ask me scheduling questions all you want. That's fine.
You didn't like the success question?
No, it's not. I didn't like it. It's just funny because so
that is a legit question on every single interview we do.
Well, my definition of success, mine personally, I don't want that to affect my coaches. Because it's also different in every season, though.
We're going to get into philosophy here. It absolutely does.
My seventh grade definition of success, I just wanted 15 seventh graders to show up with uniforms.
Maybe I should preface this with I'm looking bigger picture stuff.
Sure.
Right? So if my ultimate definition of success is I just want to make lots of money, that really doesn't fit with what we do here at CatchMark. Not that we don't want to, but if that drives me, all the decisions I make, all the things I do within our organization are all going to be driven around that. Or if that's Zach's definition of success and he comes into CatchMark and ours is significantly different, we want to help people.
Sure.
Right? They're going to be at odds instantly. And so so that, So.
And I think also as an English major, when you teach kids how to write, you write about your experiences in a fiction, nonfiction, typical classroom world.
Yeah.
Your definition of success is also governed by your experiences in the military, from a small town.
Sure.
Scott
we're all biased.
Scott and I are defined largely by our similar set of experiences. We had coaches that had very high standards, win or lose. We had parents that expected the best of us. We had friends that we were tight with that we played every sport with. And so those things governed who I am. Like I want our kids to handle themselves on the court better than they've ever done before because they don't understand that 30 years from now, you're not going to remember what the score was against Mason County. You're going to remember how you. Well, I will. No, he knows I do too. But really, in the broader sense, you want kids to have those experiences. One of the experiences I'll always remember. My last game ever was baseball. We lost in the district. He made the Final Four. All the bench kids who weren't good enough to play with Scott and his crew, we won the league the next year. We won the league.
Brian, we're not gonna be able to roll him into this conference room again.
What time we got right now? We got time to talk about that 91 baseball team or not?
We won the league, won our pre-district, and lost our first game in the district. And it was crushing. I rode home back of the bus, didn't want to take the uniform off. Like it was devastating because we had that level of expectation, commitment, and so I hope that our kids have the same thing, that they do take losses somewhat hard. But I mean, again, wins and losses aren't everything, but at the varsity level, you want kids to have expectations. You want your coaches to have expectations.
And to kind of make that, I don't think there's anything wrong with us making money at CatchMark. Mm-hmm. I think that is going to be one of the things we want to do if we want to be successful here and we want that doesn't go away. It's really though just around where does that fall on the priority list?
Sure.
Right, and what are the most important things? So
right,
and I'm consistently leaders everywhere. I'm really interested in what that looks like for them, and that's these guys are going to chuckle because they know this, right? Like, and so. I do believe culture is the number one thing.
My priority list would be expectations. That'd be my number one.
Yeah.
Like I want our coaches to have expectations. I want our fans to have. I want to have expectations of our fans. I want. That's what I want. I want us to roll in to seasons, not just rolling out the balls. I want our kids to have expectations, and I want our coaches to have those as well of themselves and their kids. So.
Well, it helped us. We competed in the classroom too. I mean, that's serious. Seriously, we did.
Yeah.
Like our group, we were. Baseball was probably our sport. Football, we were pretty good. Basketball, but in the classroom, we competed to see who got the best grades too.
And I've told, like, I wanted to be the first one to turn in the assignment. Like, I wanted to be the first one to, like, that's who I was. Now, I didn't always come across that way to some of our high school teachers, but that's who I was internally. And I think that the teachers that you vibe with are the ones that recognize that.
Yeah.
And that's who I think we were very, I mean, I still call Mr. Gifford, Mr. Meerman. I mean, the guys that are, some of them are great teachers to other people. To us, they were like more than that. And I hope that our kids have that at Whitehall. I hope they have coaches and teachers who they vibe with, who they count on for much more than just X's and O's.
I love how you use the hip slang there.
The vibe.
You're a little sus, Brian. Using that vibe word.
You have to be. I don't have kids, so I've got to stay.
Oh man, if I didn't have kids, I'd look like a dinosaur all the time.
That was bussin'.
My kids walk through the house and say something different every single day, and I'm like, what did you say? And they're like, this is what it means. And I'm like, man, I need a dictionary or some kind of reference guide to like, but no, you're pretty good.
Keep
man.
updated.
Well, I don't know about that. I have to try. But essentially, you have to be authentic also. That's another thing that kids see. If you're not yourself,
in a second.
Yes, that's correct.
You can sniff it out.
Yes.
So would you finish middle school basketball?
We finished in second.
Nice. Nice work.
North Muskegon won 7. North Muskegon's loaded. I'm just telling you right now. I'm putting pressure on them.
They always are.
They're loaded.
Why is that? They always are.
They're
Ripster ruins them at the. No, I don't want to talk to you, man. I'm just joking.
Like, Chuck's got
they are always
They have
good.
great middle school
are.
coaches. Yeah. We lost to them 3 times, actually, and it was – they played well.
Every one of my kids that have come up, the North Muskegon kids are always good. Mm-hmm. Travel basketball, junior high. Yeah, good.
The boys they handed it to us in the title game. We tried. We had a nice little second half comeback. It fell short, but it was good. It was the kids were great. They were very welcoming of a new voice. It was
That's awesome.
It was fun.
I coached a few of those kids with Derek and Harvard this summer. It's always fun to get to know some of the Whitehall kids because you see a lot of Montague kids being from there. So I was texting Derek at the game like. Pierce played for you, right? Like I'm like, hey man, tell P to quit throwing threes in from every place on the court, right? Derek texted me back. Now if we could only get him to play defense,
That's funny.
No, that's good.
Derek's coach has said that about him 20 years ago.
Yeah, right.
Yeah, I know. Played a lot of basketball.
Passed
Derek,
it
right? Yeah. So, no, cool. What else we got?
I think that covers the majority of it.
It covers the majority of it.
Yeah. Unless you want to pick a fight or something.
No, I don't like picking fights. I like genuineness and truth. That's what and I appreciate Ryan. I appreciate him taking things head on and answering questions.
You think those questions are tough? Wait till if you were to be hired by him, and then he says, you ask him what he thinks. What do you want to do?
Yeah.
Isn't that the kind of place you want to work, though, right? Like,
it is.
Where you're empowered to make decisions and like.
It is, but isn't it kind of like when your wife, your wife doesn't want you to go do this one thing?
Scott said there's some bitterness here, Brian.
Yeah,
and then you make the decision, you're wrong either way.
Healthy conflict, yeah.
Right.
Here's my question for you guys, and I've again been on an interview or two. When I would go on interviews, I would always tell my wife there was always every time without fail one question I'd never been asked.
Yeah.
What's the weirdest interview question any of you have ever been asked? Like the one thing that you were not prepared for, like a sideways one. I'll start, for example. So I had a school, not my current employer, ask me, I want 5 words that describe 5 one-word phrases, one word that describe who you are and why, and then I want 5 words that don't describe who you are and why.
That's so weird.
It took me. I'm a talker. I'm an English major. Okay, I got through that answer, and I looked around. And I'm like, I'm not getting this job. Like it took me so long to get through the why nots that I was done. I don't know how you answer that question.
Sounds like an exercise they put me through on the board here during a tactical meeting where
an interview.
I know it was an interview.
For you, you got selected randomly. You just did it.
He also
was
volunteered.
perfect.
I
yeah,
did,
you
but
volunteered.
I illustrated how
Oh
not
my
to
gosh,
do
it was the
things
perfect
during
illustration
a
on
big staff
multitasking.
meeting.
Yeah.
But I illustrated his point, so at least I
Really
earned
well.
some brownie
Like
points,
everybody
maybe.
thought we were in cahoots today. I don't have an interview question. I've had some pretty, I guess I'll call them bland interviews myself. I had a promotion board. This is just kind of a funny story. So in a promotion board in the service, you got to sit and there's a whole, all your first sergeants or your sergeant majors are all on this board and they're asking you questions. And the idea is you have to pass the board and be recommended for promotion. So there's all kinds of pomp and circumstance and ways you have to sit and how you have to answer. And so, I mean, you study for these things. You go, so one of my first sergeants, so I was like a comms, like signals guy, so the phonetic alphabet in the service, right? Like, so one of the first sergeants asked me to say the phonetic alphabet. And so this should be me, right? And so I'm sitting at the position of attention with all these guys. You're nervous, right? Like, I get through the whole thing and I get to W. W is whiskey. Just so I remember it to this day, but at that moment, I could not remember what W stood for. And they're all kind of sitting there, and I said, I don't recall what W stands for. I'll have to get back to you with that information. One of the first sergeants looked at me, and he says, he's trying to help me out. He goes, well, if you guys went downtown, like a group of you, what would you get to drink? And without missing a beat, I said, water, first sergeant. And he goes, that's a great answer. He goes, you're done. You don't have to say any more. And I legit still couldn't remember it. It's the worst I've ever froze up. And I was like, and as soon as I hit the door, I'm like, oh, how could I not, What's the weirdest one you got?
The weirdest interview question. I would say, aside from situational questions, right? Like police academy interview was they ask you some
weird stuff.
Yeah, some background stuff, some information where you're trying to remember something or you're trying to come up with a good answer. Aside from that, maybe I had a question one time about what an example of a poor leadership, or what's something that you would change. I think the question was phrased, what's something you would change about a leader that you've had, either personally or professionally. And I thought that was kind of interesting. But I'm thinking about I got a million of these, Yeah. It was a tough one. I think it was tough and interesting because how do you answer that? What are they looking for? So, I don't know. Yeah. It was unique. If it was now, it'll be a lot easier moving forward,
Yeah. What, Scott?
I've got nothing.
You got nothing?
Now, I seem to recall, didn't you and Jeff ask some of those similar kind of line of thinking questions?
Yeah, we asked stuff like, what's the worst you've ever failed at something and how did you handle it?
Yep.
Another good one that stumps people a lot, or it's not even meant to stump. We're looking for how you reacted and kind of how you answered. We're looking for words like not I. We're looking for we did this, or somebody who can you give me an example of somebody who's better at something than you, and how do you handle that? Mm-hmm. What would your wife say is your worst quality? We asked that question. There's a whole bunch of really weird ones there. It stumps, especially tech guys. We always warn people. Like, we had an intern interview here last week, and I always warn them before. I'm like, you're not going to get really asked any tech questions. And it's going to be weird. And then, I'm a tech guy. I'm a little atypical of a tech guy because I like to talk, kind of like you, Brian and Scott. And most tech guys are a little introverted. So it's pretty funny sometimes.
But that gets down to what you're after, the culture stuff. How would this person fit?
It absolutely is.
How would this person respond under adversity?
Yeah. No, so you don't have one at all? I
don't know. You tell me, because you asked me how do you think I answered those questions? For instance,
you're here, so I think good.
I remember with one that somebody that does something better than me. I can think of a lot of examples, but I think it might even brought my brother, maybe just with his hands-on
so
ability. Because what you brought up earlier, I'm like Brian, where I'm not a great hands-on guy.
Yeah, so what we're
with
looking
mechanical stuff.
Yeah, what we're looking for in a question like that is really, can you self-realize, and do you have an appreciation for somebody that really does do something better than you? People who aren't humble have a hard time with that. Like they won't answer it. They won't be able to bring like. So there's a whole bunch of that in there. It's pretty interesting how people answer. We've had some really terrible interviews, like from being on the other side of this, where people are just like, oh, like don't even, or it's a lot. Well, I did this and I figured this out and I worked hard. You know what I mean? So yeah, you did good. I think everybody in this room did pretty good. Even Billy. Billy, what was yours?
Yeah, I mean, you had some great questions. Absolutely nothing to do with editing or production. So that was cool. I guess if you had to say weird, I had an editing position that I had in LA, and during the interview they stopped and wanted to go grab a drink, and they said that they wanted to because they wanted to know, it was a night job, that if I went to lunch with them and had a drink, if I'd still be able to come back and do the job. And I mean,
it's my kind of interview.
Zach's like, sign me up.
You don't get asked that in the education world.
Yeah.
I've never been asked that question.
Yeah, that's funny. No, yeah, I've had some interesting experiences overall, but yeah. No. What else? What other questions you got, Brian? You turned the table on us.
Yeah.
Well, I like I'm looking at the most rewarding thing about coaching. I know that's a pretty open-ended question, but it really is like, I've been blessed. I've done some great things around coaching. Like I've had some awesome experiences. I've been to Hinkle, like coaching. I've been to Gallaudet, the National School for the Deaf in DC. We had a women's tournament there. It was an amazing experience.
That's kind of cool.
Really cool. It was wild. Like,
wow.
It's a D3, so there's no direct athletic aid, but they're offset obviously by some, but the floor is raised like about a foot off the ground. And I'm speaking from, I've not had experience with hearing impaired people, so right. I'm hopefully expressing the correct terms and everything else. But basically, they have tournaments. They try to get people there from all over the country, and they get kids from all over the country there because it's an awesome learning experience for their student athletes. Everyone on the floor has somebody they communicate with on the sideline. So like they play to the vibration of the whistle, and then they look over, and it's not always the coach signing. Sometimes
right,
it's a player. They have like a buddy on the side that they're signing with the whole time. Timeouts generally take a little bit longer. It was such a cool and aware experience. It's in DC, so that's the first time I've ever been, the only time I've ever been in the nation's capital and visited a lot of things. But that's another thing about rewarding thing about coaching, is that you get to go places and do things and experience things that kids generally don't. And that's the thing about extracurriculars. I mean, our band and choir and student council, and FFA, that's why we try to, FFA, absolutely. We try to get kids to experience things, I think, in high school that gets them not only out of their comfort zone, but also gets them experiences that they don't have in the traditional classroom. And that's why people, I hope, go into education.
Well, that's
to get those experiences and get kids' eyes open a little bit.
As an employer, that's what we're looking for too, to be totally honest with you. So I think you're spot on. Matt Lohman from Montague grad goes to Michigan State now. We hired Matt as an intern, and one of the reasons we did was some of the experience he had with DECA. Mm-hmm. He went to a competition where they actually had to come up with an idea for an app, write the app, market it, like all of these things that gave him this really unique experience and that's the real life stuff. I sit on a couple boards for the CTC and advisory boards, mm-hmm. right? And like when they ask, that's the stuff that the kids coming out of school, in my opinion, need. Mm-hmm. But tech stuff is not hard to teach, believe it or not. And I know everybody's like, oh, it's real. It's not. That's the easy part. The hard part is, how do you plan a project? How do you make sure you're making money? How do you communicate with the customer? How do you set expectations? All that stuff's the hard stuff.
Sure.
So no, that's a very good. I think extracurriculars in sports do teach that. I think it's a really good thing. So.
And I think that you get that like freshman, sophomore. I taught sophomore English for 6 years, and it was just a unique year because your sophomore year in high school, driver's license.
Oh yeah.
Varsity sports.
Changes, yeah.
Jobs. military,
Yeah.
advanced education, CTC. Like you can enter your sophomore year as one kid. Puberty. Do I like boys or girls? That boy or girl like me? I mean, there's so many different things that happen in that 1 year that you really you get a sense, and that putting coaches in that mix as well on top of all those expectations, I think that's a rewarding thing, that you get kids that want to be a part of your program, but also that you hopefully help guide them to whatever the next step is in their life as well. So it's something that different people are tailor-made, I think, for coaching. Different people are tailor-made for different jobs, and I think that your experiences help guide you to be that person. Again, authentic experiences and not being somebody that you're not in some of those cases. So
Interesting.
So what was the worst question I asked you guys in an interview? It's the one you struggle with the most. Zach was pretty good at all of them.
I mean, there's a lot of hard questions. That was
yes,
character based, 80% character based, I would say.
yeah, every interview I'd get asked something. And a lot of it was not necessarily what if game stuff. It was like stuff that like you just got from the back of a career tech magazine that has zero to do with education. Like that one change up that like.
Are you at liberty to share what part of your interview consisted of toward the end there? Are you able to share that with our listeners or not?
That
For
interview?
Whitehall.
Oh, the
where
Whitehall
I
interview.
drove by in my car.
So my I don't know, ninth interview.
I love small towns.
My last interview was middle school principal CJ Van Weeren, high school principal Brett Westerland, and Superintendent Jerry McDowell at White Lake. I was getting grilled in between tee shots. I'd never played. First off, I'd never played there before.
Did you let him win?
I was so bad. That day. It was embarrassing.
Was it the nerves? Or do you...
Golf. Well, first off, golfing there is a different experience, especially those first few. Like it is tight.
Yeah.
And
the front nine's pretty tough.
I get it. I get it off the tee. I don't always know where it's going. It's going left or straight. I know that. I'm a one-way miss now, which is a good thing. The first tour, and I got put with Brett, who
I've never played golf with Brett or
if you've ever played
CJ.
golf with a 60-year-old man, you've played golf with Brett. Just 180 yards off the tee. You're not going to lose the
I
ball.
played with Jerry numerous times. But,
So Brett and I were just the Keystone Cops. Like we're off in the woods, like finding balls, and Jerry and CJ would drive up, grill me for 5 minutes, and then just drive away. And I just my head's spinning. I'm trying to hit a 9-iron, and of course I hadn't golfed for like a month before that. I don't even know.
What was
I don't even know.
I don't believe that for a second.
What road is that again?
This white car drives past me. The par 4, I think it's 11 or 12.
You're on the tee box.
The creek along the curve,
12.
And this is the first hole. I'm like, okay, this hole looks. This is hybrid for me. I can clear this creek. I hit a pretty good shot. I clear the creek, and then it's just bonk, bonk, BB, bonk. I'm like, oh my God,
playing on the horn.
You're yelling out.
BB. Can't
That's
escape
awesome.
this.
That
It's
is
just
awesome.
And then
everywhere.
as soon as I got home, I sent him a text. I'm like, did I just cost you the job?
So we get to 18. This
Cat
is
calling it an interview.
the best part. So we get to 18, and I haven't actually been given the job yet. And it's like a gorgeous summer day. We sat on 18 so long that 2 different people walked past, played 18, and kept going. Like, that's how long I was getting grilled.
I'm just imagining the whole golf course at White Lake all backed up behind you guys.
Oh, this one guy, he had to have been a member. He was so mad. And I don't blame, sir, if you're listening and you remember this day in mid-July, I apologize. He was so mad. Walker, he was just waiting, and I saw him, but I'm getting grilled still on 18, and he walks up to the box, and finally CJ's like, just go. Guy was like 180 down the middle, walks away.
That's funny.
I got the job eventually on 18.
So are you a member at White Lake now, or?
I am not. I'm waiting for my golf coach to get me a good rate. I enjoyed it out there. I've played out there a few times since then, but that was thanks, Scott, for bringing that up. That was
Why not?
That was
End this with a bang.
That's good.
So Brian, what handicap are you?
I'm a 10.
Oh, that's right. You
So
had to have beaten Jerry then.
So I
10
don't,
for 18, right?
Again, I don't know.
You beat Jerry.
The CJ hits
No
it.
offense, Jerry.
CJ hits it
CJ
2
just bombs
miles.
it.
Yeah, CJ's
I can
He
imagine
can't always
that.
find his.
CJ's crazy.
When I started golf, I lived in Cincinnati for 3 years. I never golfed, like never. We grew up not golf. I mean, golf was hitting a golf ball with a baseball bat. That's what golf was in
lot of
Ravenna.
that.
And so when I met my wife, my father-in-law was he actually was the president of a country club down Kalamazoo area. And
What
so
country club in Kalamazoo?
Kurt's Klinger Lake
Okay.
in Sturgis. A great course. And I got out there, and I can't even imagine what he thought the first couple of times. I was beyond hack, slice off the moon. And
It's crazy how hard it is when the ball's just sitting there and you're thinking, I'm an athlete, I can do this. And then it's just like, why is this so hard?
the pro there gave me, and it was so, going back to coaching, tie everything full circle, I was just like, okay, I'm going to get better. Golf is not a game that you get coached and immediately apply something and get better. It's the opposite. You get coached, and maybe in 6 months you'll figure out, oh, yeah, I got to get that full turn. It takes so long to sink in. It is not a game that you just immediately...
It's also not a game that if you go harder, you get better.
It
took me
not at
till
all.
I was probably 30 to get that. My scores didn't start going down because I'd have 3, I'd par, and then I'd get on a hole and I'd double bogey or triple bogey, and
Right.
I'm like, okay, I got to go harder now.
Right.
And it's exact opposite. Right?
Correct.
Forget it. Breathe, relax, and you guys are probably that's my personality.
No,
is not relax, right? Like it's like,
I'm the same way.
I'm not a 10. I'm a 10 only in number. I did not play enough this year to be a 10 right now, but I went from about a 20 to about a 14 one summer, and it was the most glorious summer of my life because everything started to make sense.
Yeah.
Like, okay, I can miss. I'm not a two-way miss. I kind of have an idea where the ball's going. Putting is still algebra 2. Putting is and Scott's nodding because he's watching me golf.
How much golf you play with this guy?
Quite a bit, and he's tried to teach me the nuances of the golf swing.
So he beats you.
Yeah, usually. Almost always. I saw this in my. Did I tell you I went to Cabo? I played this course called Quivira.
I'm sorry. Scott's mic just cut off. We're having tech.
There's this awesome course. I'm sure I tried to share photos with you
you
that
did
you wouldn't
share
look at.
photos. I looked at
Quivira.
them.
And
looked at your
Pam
photos.
rode with me during that. She doesn't golf. And I'm
Yeah.
want to get her into it, but I'm the last person to be teaching her that. So she took video of me, and I go, damn, that's what Brian's trying to teach me. I don't get any body turn at all. It's all arms.
Yeah, it's tough.
all
And
arms.
You can't generate
It's
club
bad.
head speed and
It's like, geez, it looks that bad. Holy crap.
Well, we'll have to get out and play this summer.
Yeah.
for sure.
So yeah,
So
it'll be-
no cameras, and no hecklers on 12.
we're bringing Billy.
That's not.
Yeah.
We're bringing the whole rig.
Yeah, it'll.
Gonna get him a cart. We're gonna have the podcast on the course.
That's right. We might
Scott,
shoot it.
Scott,
That is actually a good idea. It'd be fun.
I'm willing. I'm willing to be. And I almost did this. Scott had an idea, and I was going to do this at Claire, and we never did for a fundraiser. This is a free fundraiser for anyone listening. You have the AD look like a fool playing against kids in their best sport.
Yeah.
Like
Oh,
a battle of the
that's-
network stars, but like really make the AD look like a fool. That's the thing. And there are some sports I think I could handle. I think I could take
Which
Carly.
ones? Which
Carly,
ones
I'm
could
telling
you
you right
handle?
now, Carly Van Dam, I got you in bowling. Okay, okay, there it is. I think I could.
What about golf? Could you get her in golf? She's pretty freaking good.
I don't know. Carly can putt the mess. I followed
She
her.
can
in
hit the ball a long ways
Gosh.
too.
And that interview you did with her, that's exactly my experiences with her. Like she is just the level, and that's what you need in those two sports. That's the one transferable sport in bowling and golf. You're just there
All the time.
Like
What's your high game in bowling?
297.
Oh my god.
I grew up
Gosh,
bowling,
you
but you
got
see,
me.
you grew up. I grew up bowling,
You grew
not
up
as much
bowling.
as Scott did.
I
I
mean,
bowled
rock.
a ton
Did you
in
say
high
not
school.
as much as Scott did?
Yeah,
No, I
Scott
didn't bowl.
bowl.
I didn't bowl at all. Hardly.
Yeah, Scott's not a bowler.
Not.
I didn't start bowling until we had a lunchtime league when I worked on the east side of the state. He's a current CatchMark employee. Brian Cybery bowled all the time, and we had a league, we had a trophy for the end of the year, the whole 9 yards. It was pretty fun. I had it through a 292 was my highest game, but consistency's it's a lot like golf, like trying to make sure you're picking up spares and you're doing the right stuff. So
This man is also the czar of a thing called raffle.
So one of the questions, I tell you, another fun question I got asked before was, what do you run? What organization are you a part of? And in a different interview that I knew I wasn't going to get the job, I said I run my fantasy football league.
The Ravenna
Just to walk off, just to drop the
Perry
mic.
Fantasy Football League. That's what raffle stands for.
You guys have probably heard this story. I hired Jeff Burrell. Like, I sought him out because of how well he ran our fantasy football league. I'm not kidding. I thought if this is what he does, if this is how he handles fantasy football, it has to be, everything else he does has to be awesome as well. And when he interviewed, or when I took him out to lunch and he told me no the first time, I won't call it an interview. Legitimately, like, there's something to be said for that. If you can administer a fantasy football league, you can administer anything.
Well, it's
how many people in your league?
It's 12. This is the 17th year. We've had I think
Weird.
5 or 6 that all 17. It is a group that you're just keeping the wheels in the bus. We have a great group. We've subbed some people out here and there for life, but we have some members who are still
online drafts.
No, come on.
We went to
That's
online drafts. We went to online drafts 2 years ago. We still get together in person, but we do it online in person.
We had a pool draft this year. Shout out to our good friend Scott Fleming. You want to talk about? We drafted the last 2 rounds were by flashlight because the lights went out poolside.
Yeah, Rusty Gilbert. I don't know if Rusty listens to our podcast. I graduated. Rusty shows up every year with a magazine, and he's asking Jim Tembrinks in it. Tembrinks, he's always at, who should I draft? And Jimmy's like, it's very similar. It's a good time.
Old school.
My fantasy football team, I average like 130 points a game until the playoffs, and I've scored like 72 weeks in a row. So I made the playoffs.
Does this photo look
I'm only in 3 leagues. I'm only in 3 leagues.
Keep track. I dropped it back.
When you don't have kids,
just
I tell
one.
people all the time, when you don't have kids, you can do fun things. Like you.
That's true. That is true. I just couldn't keep up. Like the tricky part was like, and then I found myself rooting against myself on Sundays. Like I'm like, I need Stafford to throw a bunch of touchdowns, but I need Green Bay's defense to do well too.
See, I'm able to somehow separate that. Like I can just watch Red Zone and just live and whatever happens. So
That's why I pick all Dolphins players.
That's right. Doesn't make it easy.
That's awesome.
Yeah, that's right. That's right. That's right.
Awesome.
I'm glad you didn't show another
All right,
picture.
so we
Nothing
asked
to
a
see
question
here.
to
Nothing to
Tater.
see here, everyone.
Yeah.
You played basketball, Brian.
I did, not professionally.
Well, yeah, no, none of us did. But best West Michigan Conference basketball player you ever played against? Or played with or against? Let me put it that way. Scott DeCamp is not allowed to be on the list.
I wouldn't be on that list. Don't worry about that.
Let me go through it.
Play
I'll
it
tell you
good
what. Our senior year, the league was capital
tough in the
L
90s.
loaded.
Yeah, 80s, 90s.
With my buddy Jason Kennedy, I haven't talked to in forever, and Grants and Highcoop at Shelby.
Shelby was good.
And Mason County was loaded with
Holmes
with current MCC principal Jeff Tuca. I'd be remiss if I didn't give him a shout.
You didn't play against Tuca.
I didn't,
Yeah,
but I just
I
wanted to
did.
give him a shout. Yes, Whitehall was with Xavier and Charles and Cassette, and those guys. They were loaded too.
I see you've strategically left the Wildcats out of that list. Thanks.
No,
Osborne's
no, Brett.
Osborne's gonna
no,
kill you.
I didn't play against Oz.
I know.
He's way too old for me. The best. I'm going to tell you, the best player I ever played against, period, wasn't West Michigan Conference. My last high school basketball game was against Joe Moderman, district finals at Kent City. Mm-hmm. There's a infamous picture in the Chronicle. We cut it to I think 7 or 8 in the fourth quarter. We felt good. He hit 2 legitimate NBA threes on us, and we just, okay, we're going to go home now. Like, he was insane.
And you still scheduled a game with his team?
He was insane in
Come on.
high school. He was. We watched him. We were like, I think we can get this. And we had it single digits fourth quarter, and shoot, he was better at basketball than we were. It's just
So Moderman was the best?
no doubt.
Yeah.
No doubt.
Interesting. I like that.
Tuca played on some good teams at MCC.
Tuca did play in some good teams.
I think he was a junior when I was a senior, and those groups coming up behind him, I mean, I think it was 98 or 97.
Plinus.
Yes, Plinus.
Those guys
and
were
yes.
amazing.
I need to say Tony Jasic also in here. Otherwise, I will get a text.
Teach.
I will get
You
a
didn't
text.
play against Tony either. He wasn't old enough. He's a year behind me.
That's correct also. Yes, that's correct.
Amy's throwing
I
out all
have
these
to
names.
mention 96 people. Yes,
Oh,
they
my
were
gosh.
all too young for me. Yes.
Yes.
If I didn't say Tony, then
What year did you graduate?
92.
92. All
92.
You were like 83 or 84,
Yeah,
Scott?
close enough. No, I'm still
Ish.
not as old as Oz. I'm old, but not that old.
Yeah.
Oh my gosh!
It's granite.
After Brad's comment, I went up to, because we played at Mason County, so Dave and Randy Lindquist, Dave Osborne and Randy Lindquist were sitting on the bench, and I walked up and I said, "Did you listen to the podcast?" And they said no, and I said, Tater, I asked him who the best player he ever played against was, and he named a Montague guy, and they both turned around like, I was like, it was neither one of you. But he said, then they were offended, and I said, it was Doug Schloff, and he's like, oh yeah. They're both like, yeah, I get it. You know,
Yeah,
it's kind
that
of
makes
thing,
sense
so.
too.
Makes a little bit more sense.
Yeah. So, anyways, what else we got, Zach? Is that
That's
it?
it.
We've gone a long
That's
time
it.
today.
Cameras are going to die if we don't get out of here.
All right, let's do it.
Without further ado, that's episode 10, boys. Thank you so much for joining us, Brian.
Hey,
Really
had a good
appreciate
Thanks,
it.
Brian.
Thank you.
It's a good time. Thanks to Billy Man for making this whole thing happen. And then the host.
What about our
These
sponsors?
guys. Oh, Van Dyke Mortgage.
Yes.
How could we ever forget?
North Grove.
North Grove, Van Dyke Mortgage, Shepherd and Shepherd. Thank you guys all so much.
Yeah, definitely.
Really appreciate you contributing to make this happen. It's a super cool experience. The Power Hour has been going on at North Grove on
It was
Thursdays.
fun last Thursday being down there with everybody.
It was
cool.
a blast. That's what I was just going to say. Just an absolute riot. So appreciate all of our sponsors, and we'll be back next week for episode 11, and maybe another surprise guest. We'll have to see.
Ooh, who you got lined up? Anybody?
Secret.
Oh, my
You can't
gosh.
you
gotta
can't
put it
prepare
out
for
on this?
everybody.
All
We'll
right.
see you guys next time.